Hi everybody, today I'm going to have an interview with Professor Jose Martinez. He accepted to answer some questions about the Cold War.
Hi kiddos, my name is Jose, you already know. I have 44 years and I'm teacher at Tecmilenio. I'm teacher of chemistry, but all my life I appreciated history and I really like the topic of the Cold War.
Welcome Professor, I'm glad of having you here. Thanks for accepting to be with us today.
Thank you for inviting me, Onassis.
So the first question is, what countries do you consider were the world leaders during the period of the Cold War?
Well, I think the United States was the major leader into the Cold War, and also the Soviet Union wanted to be the main leader too, but did a lot of negative things.
The next question is, why did countries who were allied during the World War II become enemies afterwards?
This is a very interesting question. All the problems between these nations were originated by greed and ego, the hunger of power, I think.
Now I want to ask you, why did the Cold War take place?
Well, according to my perspective, I think this was an international conflict. These fights affected all the territories around the world, but mainly was developed into Europe, Asia, and also America, of course. Europe was the territory that was most affected and suffered more changes. Germany was one of the nations, the European nations, that was most affected.
Now this little doubt, what opinion did the general public have of the Cold War?
Well, many people think, and I also think, the Cold War was maybe unnecessary, but also was inevitable because or due to competitiveness of the two leader nations of that time that uh, escaped the post-war effects of the World War II. The ideas were very different, and the tension between them was imminent. So this caused that fight, that ego war.
My last question for you is, what type of weapons did the world powers have at their disposal during the Cold War?
This is the most interesting question to me. I really, I'm really interested in the weapons of the Cold War. According to my knowledge, to my perspective, they had a lot of innovational weapons. They developed atomic and nuclear bombs. They started to use radioactivity, and also they created a lot of modern weapons and technological advanced tools.
These were all the questions, Professor. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your time. And also, thanks for attending me.
It was a pleasure to stay in this conversation, in this interview with you, Onassis.
Hi there, my name is Onassis Prado. I'm a student of Tecmilenio at La Marina Mazatlan campus, and I'm going to describe you some aspects about the Cold War. First of all, I want to give you a general description, some important dates of this global conflict. Talking in an historical context, this war was an event that began at the end of the 40s, but had its catharsis between 1989 and 1991. Uh, First of all, I want to give you the definition of this term. Uh, well, Cold Wars refers to war of ego between two or more nations with different perspectives that does not involve the use of direct military action but also causes indirect violent conflicts which produce certain tension between the involved nations or the involved ones. Well, now I'm going to tell you some of the most important dates that the Cold War had into the Bitacora or something like that. Well, the first important date was the creation of NATO. This NATO was a treaty between Western European nations. The US was essentially an anti-Soviet military alliance. Well, the second important date is the War of Korea during 1950 until 1953. These represent the power struggle between North and South Korea escalates into war, with the communist North supported by China, the Soviet Union, on the US that joined the South. Well, another important date is the Warsaw Pact, established by the Soviet Union in 1955. The Soviet Union established it as a counterattack of the NATO treaty or alliance. Another important date is the War of Vietnam in 1959. It's considered the greatest defeat of the United States during the Cold War because Vietnam was divided into a northern communist region and southern capitalist region, and despite the subsidies and the help of the United Nations, Vietnam lost the war and the entire country had to adopt a communist government. Then the erection of Berlin Wall is another important thing. This was made by the Soviet Union in 1961, and Berlin was divided between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union. Then we have the Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962. The Soviet Union built missile bases in Cuba, so the United States treated military action, and then the US backed it up when US accepted to remove its missiles in Turkey. Then we have US withdrawals from Vietnam. Again, the United States fight to gain the territory of Vietnam and ending with a victory. We have the Chernobyl disaster in the Soviet Republic of Ukraine in 1986 was a nuclear catastrophic plant accident. It's very remembered nowadays. And then in 1987 we have the economic reforms by Gorbachev called Perestroika and Glasnost. Then in 1989 we have the demolition of Berlin Wall and the decline of the Soviet power. And in 1990, Boris Yeltsin elected president. Russia, very dramatic change because Russia had no presidents, just the structure called the Soviet Union. And then finally in 1991 was the fall and disintegration of the Soviet Union and the end of the Cold War. Now I'm going to talk about the two extrapolar economic systems that were involved during the Cold War, that were capitalism, an economic system based on private ownership and the economic freedom of each individual into a society. In other words, business and money are are the responsibility of the means owners instead of the government. So private owners decide when and how to produce a product and also the cost of it. These economic interactions generate phenomena as free competition and supply and demand. Adam Smith is considered as the founding father of this economic method. On the other hand, we have socialism, that it was predicated mainly by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. This economic model is similar to communism, states that the major means of production have to be equilibrated for all the sectors of the population, even the poorest and the richest. Its main goal is to narrow, not totally eliminate the gap between the rich and the poor. The government has the responsibility to redistribute wealth to make society more fair and just, but it differs with communism in the fact that this system is not against private property in a radical way. Now I'm gonna end this video with my own conclusion about this topic, the Cold War. And well, I think that this conflict was just a rivalry between the two superpower and industrialized nations of that time, America, United States, and Soviet Union with Russia. And while United States was innovating and searching for a redesigned economic model to gain more influence and power, the Soviet Union was trying to do the same, was trying to imitate United States, but with an obsolete perspective and antiquated economic systems. So its defeat was due to the incapability of the Soviet nations to amplify its vision and see a modern panorama.
Drop it.